This is going to sound harsh, but if you're in debt right now, there's a very good chance that you will never get out of it. Maybe for the rest of your life. And, even if you pay off some debt, you probably find your way back in there. And it's not because you're irresponsible, you don't know how to budget, or it's because you don't understand how to spend your money. The problem is debt is not the problem itself. See, people try to put it in an isolated settings and look at it and they try to find solutions for it. Like you have to budget harder, you have to spend less, and you have to do this and that. So that itself is not the problem. That is symptom of a problematic system. And what I want to talk to you about is usually there are different reasons that can create problems that system that shows itself as that. It can be because your life grows unintentionally. Maybe you are a spontaneous spender. Maybe there are some unintentional decisions, or maybe you are reactive in some ways to some of the situations in your life. And any and all of this can really cause a problem within the system that shows itself as that. So what I want to talk to you about today is not to just pay off debt, is how to redesign your system in a way that not just you pay off debt, you stay off debt. You never get back out of it, because when the system is fixed, you never will get back at it. And to be honest, my relationship with money was never just this clear and polished, and I never had my finances together from the beginning. I really had to read a lot of books, pay attention, think, and I also made a lot of mistakes. And honestly, sometimes people tell you don't do this as a mistake, and it just never works because you have to live that experience to learn from it. That's why words don't really work as well as much when it comes to financial advice. But perspectives usually work. So I never had this polished and good relationship with money. I had to pay a lot of attention and think and read and do different things. And I began to realize that one problem that we have in our society is that we are just shown some aspects of managing money or how money works in your life, because the only way that we perceive money in life is through numbers. Usually it's through numbers. That's where we see them, and we just think that's all it is. But really what it is, money is heavily tied to behavioral psychology behind every decision you make, and it is so entangled in your psychology that it's really hard to understand the extent of how much it affects. So really good finance and bad finance, and not just, I'm not talking about how much you save, can really make or break your life to the extent that it's probably hard to understand for people. So what I want to say is, yes, there are a lot of time we'll learn different things about money, but it's like fragments, piece here, piece there, and we never are really taught how to have the right perspective toward money and how to design a system and design a financial life that's going to help us thrive. So it's going to save us and it's going to help us thrive. And a lot of that is going to tie to freedom. It's going to tie to the margin you have, how resilient you are financially, and everything. So basically what I want to talk about today is, I think we have talked enough in society about shaming people about money. I think what everybody needs at this point, or most people, is clarity. So we're going to focus more on perspective and clarity during this video, and that's why I'm trying to make this a different one. So as we talked about, I want you to understand again that it's very important to know that the debt is not the problem itself, and it's the symptom. So the problems within the system that can cause debt can be a few things. One is your income is not matching your lifestyle. Another thing can be the spending you have is being driven by stress, convenience, or identity. And this is a big one. Other fixed costs in your life keeps creeping up without you really realizing that. And your financial decisions are being made month to month instead of year to year. This is a big one I've seen people do, because when they're trying to refinance a car or anything, they say, oh, the monthly payment's the same, but it's like you're adding debt to your debt. This is another one. And the last one I want to talk about, like, we are within a culture that has justified and encourages us to constantly pursue more and more and more. So it keeps pushing us into consumerism culture to just buy more. And this doesn't even need to be really intentionally. So what I want you to understand is when people say, "Oh, I just want to pay off debt," is they want relief from this pressure. But when they start to feel the relief for a while, they feel like they're comfortable to get back in debt again and feel that pressure. And because again, the root cause is not fixed, the same patterns are going to keep repeating and repeating. If you have, it's as if like you have an infection inside, right? Have an internal infection, and it just keeps coming to your skin, to the surface, and it shows as kind of wounds, and then you're trying to like do bondage on it and just trying to fix it, but it's just a symptom. And as much like, if you don't take antibiotics, it's not going to help it. Like, you have to fix the root cause of it. So what we're going to talk about today is not just how to get these paid off and everything. We want to create a strong system that will make sure that you will never get back in it, which a lot of it comes to being conscious about how money is affecting every part of your life and designing that strong foundation. So the first step is the simplest and the easiest, but mentally the hardest and the most challenging, because you have to create a full version of your financial reality. So it can't be a vague, "I think this is how much it is," or an estimate or anything. You need to be clear. You have to find all those numbers to get to the right picture of the reality of your financial life. So here's where to start. You can grab a pen and paper, or if you want to work on a spreadsheet, is up to you. Here are the numbers we want. In the first step, we want to look at all the debts that you have, which means writing down your credit card debts, student loans, medical bills, personal loans, car loans, buy now, pay later balances, and anything like that. And then when you have all those debts that you have listed, then the next step would be getting to 3 numbers for any of those debts. So those 3 numbers would be, first one is the balance, second one is the interest rate, and the third one is the minimum payment. So this part matters the most is because most of the people are living in a fog around their financial life. And when there's fog, there's fear. And when there's fear, there's avoidance. And when there's avoidance, is just unintentional, haphazard growth of their life in the dark. So it's very important for us to have a very clear image. And the next step to have that clear image for us is to get to 4 other numbers. The one is like, what is your actual take-home payment, or how much you take home after all the deductions and everything? And then how much are all your expenses? And within that, you want to look at how much room do you actually have. Some payments, like of course mortgage, rent, and utilities, you really can't bring them down. So you want to see what are the payments that can be reduced, like your takeout and coffee and everything. So how much wiggle room you have. And the last one that you want to understand is how much is your net worth. So once you get those 4 numbers with all the debts that we talk about, then you begin to have a very good picture of your financial life. And again, this is the part that's going to be very hard, because a lot of people feel shame. A lot of people feel like, "Oh, I'm just so bad at this. How did I get myself into all this debt?" Because this is the part that reality is going to hit you the hardest. And it's very, very important to just take it and accept that how it is, and just know that this is a very important step for you to take, so you can move on to the next one, which basically redesign your financial life and create a strong foundation. So after you identify your debts, the next step would be to choose your tax style and how you want to start tackling your debt. The first one is debt snowball, which is you start to hit it from the smaller debt and you move to the next and the next and the next. And the good things about that, it helps you with quick wins and it helps you build momentum. It's mentally a little easier because you start to feel like you're getting wins, and it helps you move to the next one. The next, or the other way to do it, is debt avalanche. That means this is more mathematical way to do it, because you start to hit your debts based on the ones that has the higher interest rate. And It is mathematically the right way to do it. However, it really depends on how people want to do it. Because some people care more about the momentum, so some people are more logical, and some people are more on the emotional side. So, what I really want you to pick here is pick the style to fight your debt that makes sense to you. And I don't want you to pick a system and then after 2 weeks change it and then go back to the other one and then like change it again, because consistency is the key. So what I want you to understand is just really figure out which of this system works the best for you and just stick with it, because consistency makes the most difference. At the end of the day, both of them are going to work, but of course Avalanche is a little more practical and it just saves you more money in the long run. But if you pick the Avalanche and you end up abandoning it because it's not your system after 2 weeks or 3 weeks or a month, don't do that. So pick your one, pick your attacking style. So here's the next step that is very important, and honestly it's a big part of my philosophy too. And it is basically that you want to create automation, so you remove the need for motivation. Again, you create automation, so you remove the need for motivation. Because if you're counting on your daily personal discipline to do something, one day you feel stressed, one day you feel tired, one day you feel afraid, one day you're not motivated, and you really can't do that. So the way it is like you want to build this discipline within the system, within like an automation, so you're not counting on you feeling like having the right feeling in a moment when you want to make a payment. So the first step is you make the minimum payments, like you make automatic minimum payments for all your debts. But then what happens, this is what you have to do on the day you get paid, and on the day you get paid or the day after that, you want to go and whatever you've assigned to your extra payments is you go and make the payment right after you get paid. Because when the money sits in your bank, it has the tendency to get reassigned. It has the tendency to get put toward other purchases that are not necessary. So you're giving yourself more time to use that money toward other purposes based on reactive and impulse and other things. So you want to remove emotion out of it. So the first thing is you get paid, you made all the minimum payments, and you make the big additional payments that you can right after that. So here's the next thing that I want to make sure I explain it thoroughly, because it is a crucial part of sticking to this plan, is that you want to make sure when you're trying to free up cash, you're not stripping yourself of every joy and everything that makes you good about life. So the goal is not to just spend zero, zero, zero. This is a part that I really disagree with some of the financial gurus out there, not that I just call myself one, but I disagree with them, because at the same time, you want to have a good life. So you, of course, want to have a bigger life. You want to get rid of debt. You want to have more freedom. You want to bring all of that in your life. But it doesn't mean you need to be miserable until you get there. I'm a fan that you need to live your life and still have a good life while you do that. So the big thing here is you need to be intentional about the way you spend your money. Maybe your coffee ritual every other day that you go get coffee is a big part of your life, where maybe you want to get dinner with a loved one like every other weekend or something. Like your gym membership is very important. Maybe like you buy books and that's part of something that you really like appreciate, and it helps you also grow. So it's very important to just be intentional. Of course, if you go into a super expensive gym, you can go to a cheaper gym and still get a good experience. You can cut down on some of those costs, but the goal is not to strip everything away. You need to make sure you still have a good life, because if you make your life really hard all of a sudden, that's another perfect recipe for people to just get out of it and say, oh, I can't do this anymore, this is too hard. You need to have a good life, still enjoy everything you do, just be very intentional on how you spend money, how much return you get, and how much you can save. Another example is you can think of how much return you get on every dollar spent. So let's say you get like a movie theater membership. You pay 25 bucks and you can go watch a movie every weekend, right? And then let's say it's 2 hours, and then you go there and come back as 3 hours. So you get 3 hours every weekend. It's like 12 hours a month of entertainment you get for $25 a month, something like that. You can get a membership. The other form of entertainment is like you can go out for dinner. Of course, I'm not talking when you go with a loved one or somebody you like or a friend or anything. But when you go out, spend like 50 bucks on an hour for dinner, then you see 25 bucks for 12 hours or 50 bucks. It's basically you spending 48 times less. So you just want to be intentional, put your money where you get more return, be very intentional and thoughtful about it. And this is a big step. Don't make yourself miserable, still have a good life, stick with the plan. And this is a key thing to make this whole thing work. So the next step would be, okay, you reduce some of your expenses and you're taking some of the money that you're saving, put it toward your debt, right? So the next step would be to increase your income. So there are a lot of different ways that you can do it. You can be creative. Some of the ways, of course, you can do freelancing. You can do DoorDash or you can do Uber. Uh, some people can do babysitting. Maybe you can be a host or you can be a server. There are a lot of different ways that you can do it, but also there are some other ways that maybe if you're a professional, they can give you more return. So maybe you can move to another company that gives you a raise. Maybe you can negotiate it. Maybe you do some freelance with some of those skills you have that pays you more. So this works for people who have already cut so much on their spendings that if they cut more than that, it would really remove the quality of life too much. So they don't want to go lower than a certain point. Or if you, so for some people, their income is so low that they get stuck here and they don't have much room to cut from the spendings to pay your debt. The next step is really they have to increase your income. So whether you need some extra income to start tackling that, or if you need extra income to do it faster, this would be your next one. So think about creative ways, how you have time around your schedule and everything that you can create more income in any way, and you have to move toward that. But here's a very important one. When you start to have more income, do not upgrade your lifestyle. It's very important to keep that lifestyle gap. You have to postpone it. You have to have delayed gratification. You focus on the debt. Do not upgrade your lifestyle, okay? Because some people like start to think like, oh, I'm making more money, so I'm gonna do it. Focus on the debt, and you're gonna get there. And what I want you to really understand is it is very important to mentally grasp everything about your situation and never allow yourself to fall back into debt. Because you have to understand, debt is very addictive. And everybody have this mindset. Of course, we grow up in a society that debt is normalized. Student loans are normalized. Everything is normalized. And especially for people who clear large amount of debts, 100,000, 50,000, 80,000, when they clear that, they think like, oh, if I go 2,000, 3,000 under debt again, I'll clear that. I have already learned how to do it. And it is in a way very addictive, and people fall back into it. So you have to understand that you have to create your identity. You have to see these patterns. You have to make yourself aware and conscious and educate yourself and really internalize the systems so you don't fall back into it. You have to understand like borrowing money, maybe in some cases if it's mortgage, but other cases is really not okay. When you're borrowing money from somebody, you're selling some of the options in your future to them. And it is a concept that is a little harder to grasp. Like if I am financially under a lot of pressure, if I have a lot of loans and payments and obligations and everything, then when I want to have switch job and I want to get out of a job that I hate, I can't. If I want to go on a vacation and spend the money on a vacation with my family, but I don't have the money, I can't. So when you're borrowing money from somebody, you're exchanging some of your options in the future for them, with them. So you really want to avoid that. I think I really want you to understand it is very important as you're going through this process, you need to make sure you internalize all this process and you don't get back yourself into debt at all, ever. That is not okay at all to any extent. Okay. So after you finally get yourself out of debt, there are three things that can help you to remain out of debt. And the first one is to create a margin, to create a buffer between you and falling back into debt. And there are a lot of different ways in it. I'm going to go in different videos and talk about that more in depth. But basically, you want to have something from a month to 3 months at least. In some cases, people have 6 to a year, but between 1 to 3 months of all the expenses reserve. And that margin gives you a lot of resiliency. If you lose your job, you get hit by a medical bill, you get into an accident, like anything happens, you will have the resilience and you will be flexible with that it doesn't alter everything in your life. So number one is that you want to have that emergency fund that is a little more than that, 1 to 3 months of expenses. The second one is, which is really important, is a lot of people fall back into it, is the use of credit card. So you need to be very, very responsible if you're using your credit card. And for some people, it's better if they rest it for a month or 2 or 3 and not use it at all and get back to it. Because if you put in anything on your credit card and you cannot pay the statement balance that month, you should not use that credit card at all. A lot of people, of course, like pay off big debts like student loans and everything. The consumer debt that you pay 20-30% interest on it, it is the easiest one to fall back into. So you really have to be careful around how you're using your credit card. And the third one is, if you feel good about your finances, still every 3 to 6 months, you want to come back and look at the whole picture of your finances and make sure you're still on the right track. You're still within the framework that you've created for yourself. So that, like, check in every 3 to 6 months, it kind of helps you to make sure that you're safe and you're not kind of falling out of order and you're still working within the system and aligned with the design for your financial life that you have created. So make sure you stick to these 3 steps. So this is the last thing that I want to mention before we wrap up this video. I'm hoping that from everything we talked about, you get to understand 3 things. This is not just about getting out of debt. It's about creating a system that is strong, it is clear, and it is intentional. And this is what's going to help you with a lot more than just getting out of debt. That system is going to help you thrive, and it's going to have you peace, and it's going to give you a lot of things. So you have to understand mindset, and this behavioral psychology behind how you spend your money is the biggest factor that shapes everything. It's less about income. In some cases, it's not about income at all. There are people 100,000, 150, 200,000 making, and it's still stuck really hard because they have crazy high bills. I've seen people with millions of assets that is still, they get themselves into really crazy bills and they get stuck. So unless you're making very, very low amount of money, 35, 40, 50, something like that, you have income problem. But if you're in the 70, 80,000 and higher, you probably have a system problem. So we need to make sure you create a system that is strong, it is clear, and is intentional. And I'm hoping that I can help you have this perspective, understand this, and really change the financial design of your life by understanding how the system works. If you like this video, if you enjoyed it and it was helpful, please don't forget to drop a comment. Let me know what you think. If you have any questions, let me know. And if you really like it, please subscribe to my channel. I would really appreciate it. Until the next video, have a good one.